KJ5, AAF mobile.
W5FC. Dallas races next, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC.
KJ5AAF mobile.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5. Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5 FC-R station ID on Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. One, general announcements. Two, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. National Space Society event. Four, discussion topic of the evening. Five, what's up? 6, space exploration and space history. 7, constellation of the week. 8, space launches of the week. 9, recent astronomical discoveries. 10, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11, astronomical Q&A. And 12, 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from this evening. Please come now.
Kilo 5 Alpha Alpha Foxtrot. Probably short term.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power 4-1.
Kilo 5 Dallas.
Kilo India 5 Uniform Alpha Uniform David on an HTM Mesquite.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas low power long time.
Kilo India 5 Uniform Julia Dustin in Dallas.
Okay, I'm having trouble hearing some of you, so I'd like some fills. The first station ended with AAF, but I didn't get your prefix or your name.
This is Kilo Juliet 5 Alpha Alpha Foxtrot. My name is Travis. I'm mobile at the moment. I am in Rowlett, Garland, but I'm mobile at the moment. I apologize. I thought I'd knocked my antenna off my car, so I had to double check. That might have hindered my initial broadcast.
Okay, Travis, well, welcome to the net, KJ5AAF. Then we have W5GUS Gus. The next station, David, KA5, and I missed the rest of it. Sorry, KI5.
KI5, uniform, Alpha, uniform.
David. Then WB5, MFI, Ted. And the next one, I got UJ for the last part of it, miss prefix in the call. I mean the name.
Kilo India 5, uniform, Juliet, Dustin, in Dallas.
Okay. Kilo India 5, uniform, Juliet, Dustin. Welcome to the net. All right, let's take regular check-ins.
This is W5 BLT, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill, Garland.
November 5, Golf, Hotel, Oscar, Lance, in Louisville.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Oscar Echo, Tommy, in Salt Springs.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
This is Alpha Golf 9er, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, KI5, JCM, Thomas, and Euless.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Planet Earth, but more specifically Mesquite.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie, Delta, Cody, in Dallas, low power, recheck. I think I got stepped on earlier.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, in Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey J, no weather.
Okay, let's pick those up. We have Whiskey 5, Bravo, Lima Tango, Bill, N5, looks like Golf Hotel Delta, or Oscar. I'm sorry, Lance, would you please clarify for me?
5 Golf Hotel Oscar, Lance in Louisville.
Thank you. That's what I wrote, just couldn't read it. Then we have KE5 ICX Tom. Next we have Tommy, but you doubled with Tom, so I missed your call sign if you would come back with that.
This is Tommy, which is Kilo, India 5, Zulu, Oscar, Echo. Tommy from Bald Springs.
Okay, Tommy, Kilo, India 5, Zulu, Oscar, Echo. Then Kilo, Foxtrot 5, ZBL, Bill. AA5, AH, Robert. KG5, WVL, James. Antonio, I'm sorry, I've messed up your call. Would you please tell me again?
Sure, no problem. This is Alpha Golf, Niner, Sierra Golf, AG9SG.
Thank you. Alpha Golf 9, Sierra Golf. Thank you, Antonio. And KI5 JCM, Thomas. KF5JHA, Chaz. KF5 MCD, Mr. Name. Would you come back?
Sure thing. It's Kilo 5 Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
I'm sorry, did you say your name is Tony?
Cody, Charlie, Oscar, Delta, Yankee.
Thank you, Cody. Then N5 Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, and KG5 BZWJ. All right, let us ask for some Echolink check-ins.
Foxtrot 5, Delta Charlie Golf. John?
Okay, we got Kilo Foxtrot 5, Delta Charlie Golf, John. Okay, anybody else can check in by any mode now?
Great, Lima Bravo, Larry, Mobile, Rockwall.
Would you please repeat your call sign?
November 8, Lima Bravo.
Thank you. November 8, Lima Bravo. Welcome to the net, Larry. Anybody else?
November 5, Romeo Echo Golf, Robert.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Fort Davis in West Texas.
N5 Romeo Echo Golf Robert, KG5 APL Patrick, and Kelly, I missed your call. Would you please repeat it?
Kilo Tango X-Ray.
All right, anybody else?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Yeah, in Fort Worth.
NT5TM Tony, and I think it was Virginia that doubled with Tony. Would you come back with your call sign and name, please?
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Very good. November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's get started. The general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? They could be ham, astronomical space, or general interest to licensed hams.
KI5 GCM.
KI5GCF, did you want to make an announcement, or are you checking in?
It's KI5 JCM. You asked if anyone had any general announcements. Does the fact I'm studying for my general license test count? Just asking. KI5 JCM.
Sure, why not? Go ahead. KI5 JCM.
I think that was it, but NT5TM has one if you like.
Well, very good. Well, good luck on that license. NT5TM, go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brenda. I really enjoyed that ISS pass we just had. I could only see part of it, but I could hear a lot of it. And I did hear some familiar voices. I heard NV5F and I think KI5PGM trying it as well. So congratulations to everybody who tried. I hope you made some contacts. I do want to remind everybody that this is not our last net of the night. We have the Afterglow movie discussion featuring the Beastmaster from 1983. We'll be talking about that at 10:30 plus or minus a few minutes. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else?
NV5F.
NV5F. Go ahead, Virginia.
Thank you, Brenda. As per Tony's announcement, I did go out and work the ISS pass, and I did make a contact. So that was fun, and glad I made it in time for check-ins. Back to net NV5F.
Wow, congratulations. That's really impressive. Okay, other announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available for their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, BL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 o'clock p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz positive offset. So other nets are regular nets on Mondays, the first week, Ham Fixins. Second week, MCOM 101. Third week, Ham Fixins net. Fourth week, GeekNet. And fifth week, if we have one, is a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m. And Fridays, CERT City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Then every Saturday we have TechNet at 7 p.m. and, of course, Skynet at 9. And the first and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, known as MODA. Then every day have the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. Okay, tonight's Afterglow info, I think I'll call on Tom, KE5ICX, to read what he wrote. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, thank you, Brenda. And yes, it's already been reported, but let me give you the lowdown on the storyline. The Star was quite good at telepathy. He managed to train his pet tiger to fetch the evening newspaper, his pet eagle to dive bomb the neighbor's pool, and trained his matching ferrets to run a 24/7 telephone pyramid scheme. This was no small feat, since phones wouldn't be invented for another 1,500 years. Star looked out his living room window and saw the new neighbors. They looked like bird humans and had just dissolved the postal carrier with their wing arm things. They sure were messy. Join us for the cable TV winner from the 1980s, the Beastmaster from, actually it is 1982. I wrote down 1983 because that's probably the year that I saw it on rerun. That would be tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX.
Yes, and we have another winner, don't we? All right, next up, Texas Astronomy Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to tell us something about it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Brenda. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, May the 26th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. That's on Campbell Road. And will also be held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be, TAS has a junior club. We call it the Teen TAS. And the Teen TAS Vice President, Rishka Porantea and Hannah Singer, will be our featured speakers. And the topic is going to be about the Northwest Earth and Space Sciences Pathways / NASA internship. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. It's been going on for the last year after the long hiatus we had. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there'd be an opportunity for live reports from the past public observing sessions. Unfortunately, this is the second Saturday. Stargazing would have been held at Frisco, but I believe it was canceled because of clouds. So, let me see. If you wanted to get updated information about the Texas Astronomical Society, go to texasastro.org, and that'll get you updated information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control.
Thank you. All right, next, Bill, N5BB. Can you give us some information on the National Space Society? I know you haven't checked in, but if you're there, please come forward.
Thank you very much, Brenda. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director, member at large of the National Space Society. We have coming up is in 2 weeks. It's the International Space Development Conference, May the 25th through 28th in Frisco, right north of Dallas. So this is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All day long, essentially, all 4 days. And there will be, it costs money to go to this. It's a paid event. But there will also be paid dinners and lunches on all 4 days. And you will get to hear some great speakers. The featured speakers at this event are Dr. Bonnie Dunbar, retired NASA astronaut, engineer, and educator. Jared Isaacman, the mission commander of Polaris Dawn, Dr. Pascal Lee, with the SETI Institute and the chairman of the Mars Institute, Dylan Taylor, who's the chairman and CEO of Voyager Space, Isaac Arthur, who's now the president of the National Space Society and a science and futurism author, Daniel Suarez, who's a science fiction author, Melanie Strickland, who's the co-founder and the CEO of Slingshot Aerospace, Melody Yashar, the VP of the building design for ICON, Janet Ivey, the president of Explore Mars and the CEO of Janet's Planet, Dr. Eric Smith, a program scientist with the James Webb Telescope program from NASA. Everybody's really looking forward to his presentation about the James Webb Telescope. Holly Millar, the CEO and founder of Steam Space Education Outreach. Dr. David Livingston, the founder and host of The Space Show. Dr. Greg Autry, clinical professor and director of the Thunderbird Institute for Space Leadership, Policy, and Business. Gary Barnhart, the president and CEO of the Extraordinary Innovative Space Partnerships. Rod Pyle, an author, journalist, filmmaker, and the editor of the National Space Society Ad Astra Journal. Michelle Hanlon, co-founder and president of For All Moonkind Incorporated. Eileen Collins, a former NASA astronaut. Robert Zubrin, president of Pioneer Astronautics. And Dr. Sherry Bell, who's very active with the National Space Society. So these are just the featured speakers. There's lots of other threads going on, lots of activities. How, you might say, can you find out more? This is N5BB. Go to isdc2023.nss.org. So that's the acronym for International Space Development Conference. isdc2023.nss.org. You can find out more there. You can register right now to attend. If you're going to attend any of the dinners, you don't want to wait too late or they may be sold out. So that's what the big event that's coming up here in about 2 weeks at the Embassy Suites by Hilton. This is the Frisco Convention Center right off of Dallas North Tollway in Frisco. Then coming up tomorrow, we have the May meeting of the National Space Society, North Texas chapter. Our meetings are always the second Sunday of every month, starting at 3:30 p.m., and the presentation will start at 4. Our presenter this month will be remote on WebEx, so we'll have a projector in the meeting, or you can log in remotely. This will be Doug Plata, MD. He is with a group that's created something called the Instabase Space Steer event. This is something which they're proposing as a quick and easy way of getting inflatable human shelters on the moon and Mars. And they will have some examples. They will be inflating. Right now, actually, these are being stored on some property here I have control over. So it's going to be very interesting to see that event. It will be inside a large area in the convention center. So if you want to listen, if you want to attend the meeting, you're welcome to come over to Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, corner of 183 and Beltline at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. If you'd like to attend virtually via WebEx, you can send me an email and I'll send you a registration link. My email is n5bb@arrl.net or space at byrom.net, S-P-A-C-E at B-Y-R-O-M.net. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these National Space Society and International Space Development Conference meetings. These conferences are amazing. I mean, you can have dinner with an astronaut or somebody that leads a program at NASA or a commercial thing. You can sit right next to them on the table there and then talk to them during dinner or lunch. It's a really amazing event. That's all I've got. This is N5BB. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, do we have any more check-ins right now? Okay, let's move on to the discussion topic of the evening. This is about the mystery of how Mars meteorites reach Earth may finally be solved. This is written by Robert Lee. It turns out rocks can be hurled much higher from the Martian surface than previously believed. Martians have discovered that the force needed to eject rocks from the surface of Mars that eventually pelts Earth as meteorites is actually much lower than previously believed. Meteorites from a variety of sources have been discovered across Earth's surface for thousands of years, but Mars wasn't suggested as a possible source of this bombardment until the late 70s, when measurements of the Martian atmosphere made by NASA's Viking orbiters were found to match gases locked in those space rocks. Nevertheless, it remained unknown how exactly these rocks might have made it all the way from the red planet to Earth. In a new study, scientists from the California Institute of Technology and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory simulated the shock pressure that is experienced by Mars rocks as they are ejected from the planet. In doing so, researchers found that it may not be as difficult to catapult a rock from Mars to space as was previously believed. We're not on Mars, so we can't watch a meteorite strike in person, team member and JPL planetary scientist Yang Liu said in a statement. But we can recreate a similar kind of impact in a lab setting. By doing so, we found that it takes much less pressure to launch a Mars meteorite than we thought. To make it from the surface of Mars through the Martian atmosphere, in and out of the near vacuum of space, and then through Earth's atmosphere and onto the surface of our planet, the rocks must survive massive temperatures and pressures and an eventual crash landing. Until engineers can figure out a way to collect and return Martian samples, these meteorites are the only way they can study the red planet's rocks up close and personal. While the meteorites are being studied, other researchers are working to better understand the nature of the impacts upon Mars that could launch pieces of the red planet in the first place. As it turns out, Martian meteorites contain other details locked within them about their journey from the red planet to Earth. The glassy material mescalinite is created when the mineral plagioclase caused by giant impacts. That means finding mescalinite within the rock can hint at the kind of pressures it may have been exposed to. Over the last 5 years, Martian meteorites have been found with a mix of plagioclase and mescalinite, which puts constraints on the amount of pressure they must have experienced. The Caltech JPL team set about smashing plagioclase containing rocks from Earth to observe how high pressures cause the mineral to transform. This involved using a powerful gun to blast the rocks with projectiles fired at 5 times the speed of sound, simulating the kinds of pressures rocks ejected from Mars would experience. Previous experiments showed plagioclase becomes mescalinite at a shock pressure of 30 gigapascals, which is 300,000 times the atmospheric pressure on Earth at sea level. These past tests have required reverberating shock waves through a steel chamber something that doesn't give an accurate picture of what happens during impacts on Mars, however. In these new experiments, without that steel chamber acting on the shock waves, the scientists found that the transaction between plagioclase becomes mescalinite actually occurred at just 20 GPA. It has been a significant challenge to model an impact that can launch intact rocks from Mars while shocking them to 30 GPA. Caltech, Illinois, and Macmillan, professor of geology and geochemistry, Paul Asimov, said in a separate statement, "In this context, the difference between 30 GPA and 20 GPA is significant. The results are in line with observations of other high-pressure minerals in meteorites that support the idea Martian meteorites experience shock pressures of less than 30 GPAs on ejection from the red planet. Armed with these new shock pressure parameters, scientists may eventually be able to trace Martian meteorites to the giant impacts that initially sent them hurtling through space. The more accurately we can characterize the shock pressures experienced by a meteorite, the more likely it becomes that we can identify the impact crater on Mars from which it originated," Asimov concluded. The team's research was published in the journal Space Advances. This is WB50ZL. Do we have any more check-ins? All right, our next segment is What's Up? I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5, JHA. Go ahead, Chaz.
Good evening, everyone, once again. This is Chaz, KF5JHA, and this segment of Skynet we call is What Is Up, because we talk about what's going on in the nighttime sky astronomically over the next couple of weeks. That was slide number 1, Slide Master. Slide number 2. Oh, if you haven't looked at the video version of Skynet, I have a different picture of my younger times in there, so it might be interesting to look at. All right, so on May the 5th was full moon, and let's see now, on May the 12th was third quarter moon. The new moon is on May the 19th. On May the 25th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,509 kilometers. Slide Master. Slide number 3, please. Now, a week ago, we had a major meteor shower that peaked the Eta Aquarids. You could see up to about 55 meteors per hour in good conditions, but it was around full moon, so that was probably not what you saw. And we've had so much in the way of cloudy conditions around here, probably didn't see much in the way of astronomical things. Although I saw Venus through clouds early this evening, but I didn't make it outside to see the ISS passage. On the night of May the 8th and the 9th, just a few days ago, the Eta Lyrid meteor shower reached its maximum with only about 3 meteors per hour. Now, if you want to get more information about meteors and meteor showers, go to the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. This morning, although it was kind of cloudy this morning, you might be able to see the moon and Saturn in a conjunction in the southeastern morning sky. Yeah, but again, there were clouds in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 5. On May the 15th, that's just in a couple of days, the moon and Neptune will be in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. So really about a day and a half from now. Slide Master, slide number 6. On May the 16th, just the next day, the largest asteroid series in the bright star Denebola, which is the tail of the constellation of Leo the Lion, will be in conjunction in the evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 7. On May the 17th, the moon and the planet Jupiter will be in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. And Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On May the 22nd, there will be a conjunction of the planet Venus and the moon in the constellation of Gemini in the northwestern evening sky. And Slide Master, slide number 9. On May the 24th, will be a conjunction of the moon and Mars in the constellation of Cancer the Crab in the western evening sky. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, May the 26th. That's the Friday right before Memorial Day, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The Teen TAS Vice President, Rishka Purandia, I hope I pronounced her name right, and Hannah Singer will be their featured speaker, and their topics will be about the Northwest Earth and Space Sciences Pathways / NASA internship. And once again, Saturday night public observing stations have begun again, but we didn't have one tonight because of the clouds. That seems to be a more common theme than anything recently. TexasAstro.org is where you can go to get updated information and details about meetings and public observing stations. Now, Slide Master, slide number 11. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions, or maybe need a fill on any of the information I've given you? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
KJ5 AAF.
Ooh, I do like it when some people respond. AAF, go ahead. What's your question or need, something you need a fill on?
I'm so sorry. This is actually a really boring question. You keep saying Slide Master, so I assume that somewhere there is a broadcast. What is that on, so I can follow along?
Believe it or not, there is video links on the website, w5fc. Is it org? I think so. The W5FC website. Go there and you'll find the video links there. I usually pull up the YouTube video. If you look for DARC Skynet underneath YouTube, you should be able to get to it. And in fact, old past sessions are recorded and posted on there as well. Did that answer your question?
I believe so. I'm still looking as we go. I was mobile at the first part of this. I'm not anymore, so I'm able to sit still and look it up.
Well, I'm glad you're not driving and trying to look that up at the same time. All right. Well, you can always email one of us if you can't find it, but it should be on the w5fc.org website. So, Slide Master, slide number 12. As the moon wanes right now, so do these words for the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least right now. So until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment of Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5, JHA, back to our net control. Brenda, it's all back to you.
Thank you, Chaz. This is JB50ZL. Our next segment is space exploration and space history. Kelly, K5KTX, and I alternate this every week, but since I'm net control tonight, Tom, KE5ICX, offered to prepare the information instead. So would you like to read it now? KE5ICX, take it away, Tom.
All right, thank you, Brenda, and I'll leave the astronaut birthdays to you since you did indeed do that. So this is what we have from Space Exploration News this week. It says new images from NASA's Perseverance Mars rover may have revealed what was once a river on the red planet. The river, which the agency said was deeper and faster moving than scientists had ever seen evidence for, was part of a network of waterways that flowed in Jezero Crater. The rover has been exploring the crater since landing there over 2 years ago in hopes of eventually seeking out signs of ancient microbial life. Perseverance has been examining a top of an 820-foot tall pile of sedimentary rock, which has features that are suggestive of water. Using hundreds of images from the rover's NASCAM-Z instrument, mosaics revealed coarse sediment grains and cobbles. Those indicate a high-energy river that's trucking and carrying a lot of debris. The more powerful the flow of water, the more easily it's able to move larger pieces of material. Libby Ives, a postdoctoral researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, said in a statement, the rover is able to see a series of bands of layered rock within the crater called the curvilinear unit, imaging one location called Sprinkle Haven. While NASA scientists are sure that the curved layers were created by powerful water, the images have raised questions about what kind. Now in space history, we have the launch of Telstar 2. Telstar 2 on May 7, 1963 was primarily a communication satellite carried as an experiment designed to measure the energetic proton and electron distributions in the Van Allen belts. The spacecraft's spin axis shortly after launch was about 80 degrees to the ecliptic plane. The initial spin rate was 180 revolutions per minute and varied slowly over the life of the spacecraft. Telstar 2 was essentially identical to the Telstar 1 satellite. On March 7, 1992 was the launch of STS-49 and was NASA's maiden flight of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, which launched on May 7, 1992. The primary goal of its 9-day mission was to retrieve an Intelsat 6 satellite, Intelsat 603, which failed to leave low Earth orbit 2 years before, attached it to a new upper stage, and relaunched it into its intended geosynchronous orbit. After several attempts, the capture was completed in the only three-person extravehicular activity, or EVA, in space flight history. It would also stand until STS-102 in 2001 as the longest EVA ever taken. On May 11, 1949, Cape Canaveral was selected for rocket launches. Recognizing that the rocket test ranges will exceed White Sands' capability, Cape Canaveral was selected for future long-range flights. President Truman signed a bill providing the 5,000-mile guided missile test range, which was subsequently established at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Negotiations with the British government began for installation of a string of tracking stations in the Bahama Islands. On May 11, 2009 was the launch of STS-125, or HST-SM-4, which is the Hubble Space Telescope Servicing Mission 4, was the fifth and final space shuttle mission to the Hubble Space Telescope and the last solo flight of the Space Shuttle Atlantis or any of its space shuttles. The launch of the Space Shuttle Atlantis occurred on the 11th. Landing occurred on May 24th, with the mission lasting a total of just under 13 days. Space Shuttle Atlantis carried two new instruments to the Hubble Space Telescope, the Cosmic Origins Spectrograph and the Wide Field Camera 3. The mission also replaced the fine guidance sensor, 6 gyroscopes, and 2 battery unit modules to allow the telescope to continue to function to at least through 2014. I think we've gotten a little further than that. The crew also installed new thermal blanket insulating panels to provide improved thermal protection, and a soft capture mechanism that could aid in the safe deorbiting of the telescope by a robotic spacecraft at the end of its operational lifespan. The mission also carried an IMAX camera with which the crew documented the progress of the mission for the 2010 IMAX film. Now, May 13, 1960 was the launch of Echo 1. It's the first three-stage NASA-developed 4-Delta space booster and was launched from Cape Canaveral. The Echo passive communication satellite failed to achieve orbit due to the second stage malfunction. This booster was for NASA's program and used the basic Thor first stage was modified Vanguard second stage as its upper stage configuration. On May 13, 1982 was the launch of Soyuz T-5. It was a new Soyuz T-5 was a human space flight into Earth orbit to the then new Salyut 7 space station in 1982. While the Soyuz T was docked, it received visits from the uncrewed Progress 13 resupply spaceship and a crewed Soyuz T-6 and T-7. The first crew hand-launched a amateur radio satellite. The T-6 mission included a visiting Frenchman, and a T-7 included the first woman in space in 20 years. It was the first mission to Salyut 7, but more than one spacecraft could be docked to Salyut 7 at one time, which is why the later missions could overlap with Soyuz TV, the Dapner crew. On May 13, 1989 was the first flight of the Antonov 225 and the Buran space shuttle. This was the Antonov 225, which is pretty famous now after its destruction, was the first super heavy transport and would be used to transport the Buran space plane mounted on top of it. On May 13, 2004 was the launch of Spaceship One. It was released from the White Knight at an altitude of 46,000 feet and a speed of 120 knots, which is 62 meters per second. After 10 seconds, the rocket was lit for a 55-second burn. At burnout, the altitude was 150,000 feet, and the Mach number was 2.5. The craft then coasted to an apogee of 211,000 feet. At one point during the flight, the avionics computer froze up and had to be rebooted. Melville, who was the pilot, flew the aircraft manually until the computer became operable again. During re-entry, the craft attained Mach 1.9 and deceleration of 3.5 Gs. The craft switched to a glider configuration at 55,000 feet, and the craft returned to the spaceport and landed safely. Brenda, if you want to go ahead and give the space birthdays, that's next from KE5ICX.
Yeah, thank you. This is WE5OZL. Okay, on May 7th, 1959, Tamara E. Jernigan was born. She flew on STS 40, 52, 67, 80, and 96. On May 8th, 1952, Charles Camarda was born. He flew on STS 114. On May 9th, Vance D. Brand. On May 9th, 1931, Apollo Soyuz Test Project, STS-5, 41B, and 35. On May 10th, 1958, Ellen Ochoa, STS 56, 66, 96, and 110. May 10th, 1963, Lisa Nowak, STS 121. May 12th, Gregory H. Johnson, and that's in 1962. He flew STS 123 and 134. Okay, next up, Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. You're going to once again call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to give his presentation. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Once again, this is KF5JHA. Slide Master. Again, that's on the video version of Skynet. Slide number 13. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is named, it's always named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas over the course of a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellations, yes, plural, of the week this week is actually a twofer. Ursa Major, which is the big bear, and Ursa Minor, the little bear. So it's a very good night. Come on, that was a funny joke. The Big Dipper is an easy to find, almost directly overhead in the early evening sky. And if you have been working, if you've been wondering why it's been raining so much, it's because the Big Dipper is upside down and all that water is falling down on top of us. Wouldn't I make a great meteorologist? The Big Dipper is just part of the Big Bear. And right now, the bear is also upside down. Slide Master, slide number 14, the jokes of the week, what everyone's been waiting for. Here we go. What do you call a bear with no ears? Just B. See, bear is B-E-A-R-S. If you take off the E-A-R-S, it only leaves the letter B. If I have to explain them, they're no good. Okay. What color socks do bears wear? Well, they don't wear socks. They have bare feet. Why didn't the teddy bear eat his lunch? Because he was already stuffed. What kind of cars do bears drive? Ferraris, of course. Why do grizzlies never look sad? Well, because when there's a problem, they just grin and bear it. What do you call a bear with no money? Very brokey? Very... never mind. What do you call a bear with no teeth? Oh, come on, this is easy. Somebody out there in Radio Land probably has that one. A bear with no teeth is called a gummy bear, of course. Slide Master, slide number 15. I want to get out of this joke sequence. Ursa Major is Latin for the great or big bear. Ursa Major is better known by its famous asterism that's contained in it, the Big Dipper. Mizar and Alcor are famous optical double star in the handle. It's the middle star of the handle. We say they are optical doubles because we don't know if they're really orbiting around each other, which would make them a true binary star system. Even if they are not a true binary system, they are associated with each other because they share the same proper motion, as they're both members of the Ursa Major Stellar Association. The name Mizar is ambiguous on its origins. It could be corruption of the name Marca, which is the name of Beta Ursa Majoris, the bottom star on the end of the Big Dipper's bowl. One of the two pointer stars that points to Polaris. That's Mizar and Alcor. No, that's a different star that's one of the pointer stars. Mir Akandubi. The name Alcor is the corruption of the Arabic phrase of the rider, because it appears to be riding on Mizar. The number of different cultures in the past referred to Mizar and Alcor as a horse and a rider. Ancient Arabs also used Mizar and Alcor as a test of visual acuity. If someone could see both the stars, they were considered to have good eyesight. We also might use it to find out if we have good seeing conditions or how much light pollution we have. So it happens that Meissner and Alcor was featured as a binocular highlight in the June 2020 issue of Sky and Telescope magazine. This article states that Meissner and Alcor is not simply stars, but are two stellar systems. Alcor is actually a double star, and Meissner is at least a quadruple star system. Wow. The brightest companion to Meissner is easily visible in small telescopes and in large tripod-mounted binoculars as well. It has a 14 arcsecond separation from Meissner. Wow, a lot of stuff on just that middle star, Meissner and Alcor, in the handle of the Big Dipper. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. We're going to talk about M81 and M82. M81 is a beautiful spiral galaxy, and its nearby bright companion, M92, can be seen in 50-millimeter binoculars. M81 and 82 appear as just faint fuzzballs in handheld binoculars, but they are at least visible, making them both candidates for the Binocular Messier Club. You can't see them in the city. You got to get out in the countryside away from the city lights. M81 shows much better up in a telescope than you would expect, as you would expect. It shows as a fuzzy oval shape with a bright centered core, which is the galaxy's nucleus. The area of the spiral arms is dimmer than the nucleus, of course it is. But in an 8 to 10 inch telescope, you can quite maybe make out a little bit of spiral arms. But I've seen the spiral arms in my 16-inch telescope. M82 is an unusual galaxy that lies near M81. The two galaxies are associated with each other and are in fact bright members of what is known as the M81 galaxy group, which is the second closest galaxy cluster to our own local group. Only the Sculptor group is closer. M82 is an unusual galaxy. It's earned its place in Holton Arp's catalog of peculiar galaxies. It is unusual enough that Arp lumped it and a small handful of other galaxies into miscellaneous category of his catalog, a class of galaxies he's dubbed as unique. In a small telescope, it is easy to differentiate M82 from M81 because M82's edge-on appearance. This edge-on appearance has caused M82 to be nicknamed the Cigar Galaxy. Both M81 and 82 are known as Bode Nebula because they were discovered by Joanna Bode in 1774. Slide Master, slide number 17. M97 is the Owl Nebula. Is a planetary nebula discovered by Michan in 1781 and added by Messier to 1848 after viewing it through his 72-inch reflector telescope. It's a small little telescope, isn't it? It's a very small and dim on smaller scopes, but it's definitely noticeable in non-stellar nature, unlike many planetary nebulas. M97 and also M108 are so close together that both are visible in the same low-powered field of view in some telescopes. Medium to large apertures need to be used to see the owl's eyes. There are other Messier objects in Ursa Major, which include M40, M109, M101, M108, and it's worth your while to look up these objects as well. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 18. We go to Ursa Minor. Ursa Minor is Latin for little beard. It also forms the well-known asterism, the Little Dipper. The four stars forming the bowl of the Little Dipper are interesting in that they are second, third, fourth, and fifth magnitudes, providing an easy guide to determining what magnitude of stars are visible on a given night from a given location. Wow, that's pretty cool. Polaris, also known as Alpha Ursa Minoris, it's also part of something called the engagement ring asterism. Polaris is also known as the North Star, or the Pole Star. It's not the brightest star in the sky. In fact, it's the 49th brightest star in the sky. In earlier times, it was called the Stella Polaris, which the name fell out of common usage a long time ago. Polaris is one of the most famous stars in the sky because of its location near the North Celestial Pole. The star is not actually precisely at the true pole. However, it is a little less than 1 degree distant from it. During the next century, this distance will diminish, and the star will be closest to the North Celestial Pole in the year 2102 AD. At that time, it will only be 27.5 arc minutes from the pole. Polaris is a second magnitude yellow-white star of spectral class F7. It is 430 light years from our solar system. It's also an easy double star to split in small telescopes. Polaris is actually a triple star system, and the Hubble Space Telescope has successfully imaged the faint third member of the system. Polaris is part of a nice asterism called the Diamond Ring, or the Engagement Ring, which is easily visible in binoculars or a finder scope. The telescope gives too narrow a field of view to see it. Kochab, Beta Ursa Minoris, is derived from the Arabic term which means the star of the north. This name derives from the fact that 3,000 years ago, Kochab was the closest star, bright star to the true North Pole. Kochab is a second magnitude orange star of spectral type K43. It is believed to be about 100 light years away. Slide Master, slide number 19. NGC 6217 is a magnitude 11.2 galaxy located near the bowl of the Little Dipper. It is a barred spiral galaxy. Walter Scott Houston noted that it should be visible in any telescope 8 inches or larger, but on good nights he's been able to see it with a 4-inch scope. Being so close to the pole, it is visible throughout the year, and Houston notes that it provides a good test of sky transparency. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 20. Now, I've already noted there's more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellations of Ursa Major, the Big Bear, and Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So, if you do the math, and you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 21, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week. Ursa Major, the Big Bear, and Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website, constellation-guide.com, for more information. Now, next time we'll take a look at another double feature, Coma Bernices, or Coma Bernices, Bernice's hair, and Canis Venasi, the hunting dogs. Yeah, there's dogs in the sky, but we've already talked about some dogs before, haven't we? And this is KF5JJ, sending it back to our net control. Brenda, it's all yours. 73, everyone.
Thank you, Chaz. This is WB5OZL. Do we have any more check-ins at this time?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Okay, we picked up one more. Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean. You're welcome to the net. All right, what's up next? We got space launches for the weight with Tom KE5 ICX. What do you have for us?
Thank you, Miss Brenda. Well, we've got a bunch of Falcon 9 launches. What a surprise, huh? May 14th, that's tomorrow, from SOC 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Falcon 9 will launch another batch of Starlink V1.5 Internet satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have May 19th, Falcon 9 launch, OneWeb and Iridian Next. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 15 spare satellites for OneWeb's first-generation global internet network and one prototype for OneWeb's Gen 2 second-generation network. 5 spare satellites for Iridium's voice and data relay fleet will also launch on this mission. Falcon 9's first stage will return to Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg. May 19th also will have another launch of Falcon 9, this time on the other coast, Cape Canaveral, at SLC 40. Falcon 9 will launch another batch of second-generation V2 Starlink mini Internet satellites. First stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. May 21st, Falcon 9, Axiom Mission 2. This will launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. It will launch a Crew Dragon spacecraft on its program's 10th mission with astronauts. The commercial mission, managed by Axiom Space, commanded by former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. Paying passenger John Schaffner will serve as pilot of the mission. 2 commercial space flyers from Saudi Arabia, Ali Al-Karni and Rayana Barnawi, will also be on the approximately 12-day mission to the space station. The Crew Dragon will return to splashdown at sea off the coast of Florida. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic. May 21st, 22nd, Falcon 9 again. This is launching Badar 8. This is from SLC 40 at Cape Canaveral. The communication satellite for the Arabsat based in Saudi Arabia from geostationary orbit, Badar 8, will provide communications coverage for Arabsat customers over Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Badar 8 also hosts an optical communications payload developed by Airbus. The spacecraft was built by Airbus and is based on the Eurostar Neo platform. Then on to be determined, there's no date. Tropics 5 and 6 will launch from Launch Complex 1 at Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. The Electron rocket will launch a pair of these small CubeSats. Tropics, which stands for Time-Resolved Observations of Precipitation Structure and Storm Intensity, the constellation of small sats, or tropics. Missions will measure environmental and intercore conditions for tropical cyclones. These 2 spacecraft were originally contracted to launch on Astra. May 24th, the Soyuz Progress 84P launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This will be the 84th Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. Then May, to be determined, from Sichuan, China, Shenzhou 16 will launch on a Long March 2F rocket with the 3 Chinese astronauts on board to rendezvous and dock with the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. This will be China's 11th crewed space mission and the 5th to the Chinese space station. The members have not yet been announced. Sometime in May, we have Falcon 9 launch, Starlink 2-11. This will be Starlink version 1.5 Internet satellites, and we deploy those satellites into high inclination orbits inclined 70 degrees to the equator. First stage will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. And let's see, I'll do, one more here. We've got to be determined the Delta IV Heavy, the Enroll 68. This will launch from SLC 37B at Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket will launch a classified spy satellite cargo for the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office, the largest of the Delta IV family. The Heavy version features 3 common core booster cores mounted together to form a triple body rocket. This is the penultimate flight of the Delta IV rocket. That's it, Brenda. Back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. We're running a little bit short of time, so I might shorten this article. The next segment is space exploration news, and this article is entitled "Researchers Measure the Light Emitted by a sub-Neptune planet's atmosphere. For more than a decade, astronomers have been trying to get a closer look at GJ-121-4b, an exoplanet 40 light-years away from Earth. Their biggest obstacle is a thick layer of haze that blankets the planet, shielding it from the probing eyes of space telescopes and stymieing efforts to study its atmosphere. NASA's new James Webb Space Telescope solved that issue. The telescope's infrared technology allows it to see the planetary objects and features that were both previously obscured by hazes, clouds or space dust, aiding astronomers in their search for habitable planets and earthly galaxies. A team of research used JWST to observe GJ-121-4b's atmosphere by measuring the heat it emits while orbiting its host star. Results, published in the journal Nature by May 10th, 2023, represent the first time anyone has directly detected the light emitted by sub-Neptune exoplanet, a category of planets that are larger than Earth but smaller than Neptune. Though GJ-121-4b is far too hot to be habitable, researchers discovered that its atmosphere likely contains water vapor, possibly even significant amounts, as its primary composed of molecules heavier than hydrogen. University of Maryland Associate Professor of Astronomy Eliza Kempton, lead author of the Nature study, said their findings mark a turning point in the study of sub-Neptune's planets like GJ-121-4b. I've been on a quest to understand GJ-121-4b for more than a decade, Kempton said. When we received the data for this Nature paper, we could see the light from the planet just disappear when it went behind its host star that had never before been seen on this planet or any other planet of its class. So JWST is really delivering on its promise. Sub-Neptunes are the most common type of planet in the Milky Way, though none exist in our solar system. Despite the murkiness of GJ-121-4b's atmosphere, Kempton and her co-authors determined the planet was still their best chance of observing a sub-Neptune's atmosphere because of the bright but small host star. In their Nature paper, the researchers measured the infrared light that GJ-121-4b emitted over the course of about 40 hours, the time it takes the planet to orbit its star. As day turns into night, the amount of heat that shifts from one side of the planet to the other depends largely on what its atmosphere is made of. Knowing, as a phrase, curve observation, this research method opened a new window into the planet's atmosphere. JWST operates at longer wavelengths of light than previous observatories, which gives us access to the heat emitted by the planet and allows us to create a map of the planet's temperature, Kempton said. We finally got to see GJ-121-4b in a new light. By measuring the movement and fluctuation of heat, the researchers determined that GJ-121-4b does not have an atmosphere dominated by hydrogen. The question of whether it contains water has long interested us. Previous observations by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope suggested that GJ-121-4b could be a water world, a loose term for any planet that contains a significant amount of water. The latest JWST data revealed traces of water, methane, or some mix of the two. These substances match a subtle absorption of light seen in the wavelength range observed by JWST. Further studies will be needed to determine the exact makeup of the planet's atmosphere. And I'm going to cut there because there's still quite a bit of article left, and we're going to go on to Tom, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Well, I guess I've got a few things here. Let's see, the International Space Station, I hope you had a chance to see it pass over directly overhead just before the beginning of, well, during the beginning of this net. If you didn't, you got another chance to see it on May 14th. The May 14th pass, so actually there are two. The better of the two is the second one at 5:17 a.m. and will reach its highest point at 5:20 at 50 degrees, and it will fall to the southwest, south-south, and to the southeast at 5:24. The next, there are other passes, but they're much, much lower in the sky. So I moved on to shuttle the Hubble Space Telescope. May 17th, there is a pass, 1.2 magnitude, out of the west to southwest at 2151 and reach its highest point at 2155. It will fall, or actually into shadow at 2155 to the south-southeast. Then on the 18th, 1.2 magnitude, 2137, out of the west-southwest, it will reach its highest point 40 degrees at 2141, and it will fall at 2142 at 29 degrees. May 18th, 1.2 magnitude again, 2122, out of the west-southwest, almost an identical pass. 2126, the highest point, 42 degrees to the south at 2129. And finally, May 21st, there are two passes. The first one is the better of the two. That'll be at 2054, reach its highest point at 2058 at 43 degrees, and it'll fall to the south at 2101. Next up is Envisat. This is old reliable. You can always count on some decent favorable passes from there, and indeed there are some. May 16th, we have 3.0 magnitude. It's getting a little dimmer. 5:28 in the morning. It reaches its highest point at 5:33 at 74 degrees out of the west-northwest, and fall 5:38 at 10 degrees. The 18th, the following day, 3.6 magnitude. It's brightening up a little bit. 5:53 a.m. at 5:58 reaches its highest point, falls to the southwest at 6:02. May 19th, we're getting better still, 3.0 magnitude, 5:15 in the morning, reaches its highest point at 5:21 at 83 degrees, almost overhead into east-southeast, falls to the south at 5:26. And then May 22nd, 3.4 magnitude, that'll be at 5:03 a.m. and it'll reach its highest point at 5:08. At 62 degrees, and it'll fall to the south at 5:13. Brenda, that's it from me. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any more check-ins now? Well, we are just about right on time. But wait, there's another net after this. Tom, would you tell us briefly about what our Afterglow movie net is about?
Well, of course I can, Brenda. Yes, the fine film The Beastmaster from 1982. It's a sword and sandal thing, but it was written by Andre Norton, so technically it has to be science fiction because it was written by a book based on a book by Andre Norton. Whatever the heck that means. It'll be a lot of fun. There's a ring with an I in it. It's great. Back to you, Brenda. KE5ICX.
And what time are we going to meet for this net?
Well, Brenda, it'll be in about 5 minutes. Back to you.
Okay. All righty. Oh, I forgot to count the check-ins. Hold on. We 28 check-ins tonight. A pretty good bunch. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to netset at w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Whiskey Bravo 5 Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda, and I'll be closing the net at 10:27 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe, and we'll see you back in about 5 minutes.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
right, everybody return to your seats. Remember to keep your arms and hands and feet inside the car at all times. And you must be at least this tall to enjoy this movie. So tonight's movie is called The Beastmaster, sometimes shortened to Beastmaster. It was filmed in the 80s, and it came out in 1982. It's a sword and sorcery film, directed by Don Coscarelli, and starred Mark Singer, the guy with the, that guy, Tanya Roberts, John Amos, and Rip Torn. Yes, that Rip Torn is loosely based on the 1959 novel The Beastmaster by, I told you, Andre Norton. The film is about a man who can communicate with animals and who fights an evil wizard and his army. Commercially, The Beastmaster was not considered a box office success during its original cinematic run, but later received extensive television exposure and success on cable and the American market on channels TBS, TNT, and HBO. The original film spawned 2 sequels, as well as a syndicated television series that chronicled the further adventures of Dar. So here we go. Let me read you the 3 paragraphs on this fine plot. The kingdom of Arok, witches tell High Priest Max, that's M-A-A-X, a prophecy that he will die at the hands of the King Zed's unborn son. Max sends one of his witches to kidnap and kill the child, but before she can, a villager rescues the child and raises him as his own son in the village of Ymar. Named Dar, the child learns how to fight and develops his ability to telepathically communicate with animals. Years later, a fully grown Dar witnesses his people being slaughtered by the Juns. I think it's Juns, a horde of fanatic barbarians allied with Max. Dar, the only survivor of the attack, journeys to Arok to avenge his people. In time, Dar is joined by a golden eagle he named Sharak, a pair of thieving ferrets he names Kodo and Podo, and a black tiger he names Ra. Dar meets a slave girl named Curie before getting himself lost and ending up surrounded by an eerie half-bird, half-human race who externally dissolve their prey for nourishment. As the birdmen worship eagles, they spare Dar when he summons Sarak and give him an amulet. I guess it's like a friendship coin or some challenge coin. Dar soon arrives at Arok, where Max has assumed total control with the Huns to support. Max has taken the children of the townspeople and is sacrificing them to his god, Ar. Think of the children. After having Sharak save the child of the townsman named Sako, Dar learns that Kiri is to be sacrificed. Sure, why not? She's not doing anything. On his way to save her, Dar is joined by Zed's younger son, Tal, and his bodyguard, Seth, and learns that Curie is Zed's niece as the 3 work to save her. While Seth gathers their forces, Dar helps Curie and Tal infiltrate the temple and rescue King Zed. And now the conclusion. As obstinate Zed leads his forces to attack the city despite the prudent warnings of Dar, who leaves the group in anger. They are all easily defeated and captured, and Dar decides to return to save them from being sacrificed. In a conflict that follows, Max reveals Dar's relationship to Zed before slitting Zed's throat and facing the Beastmaster. Despite being stabbed, Max is revived by a witch, and when he attempts to kill Dar, Kodo sacrifices himself to cause the high priest to fall into the sacrificial flames. The victory is short-lived as the Hun horde approaches Arok, arriving by nightfall to face the trapped Dar and the people set for them. Tal is wounded as Dar succeeds in burning most of the Huns alive while defeating their chieftain before the birdmen arrive to consume those remaining. The following day, Seth invites Dar to be the new king, but Dar explains that Tal would make a better king and he should leave Arok. Star sets off into the wild with Curie, Ra, and Sharak, and Poto, who has given birth to 2 baby ferrets. The end. And with that, this is what we do. In case you're listening for the first time, and I know some of you are, and you've probably already turned your radio off, we'll turn it back on. I have something to tell you. We're going to be discussing this fine film. We'll first be discussing the plot, followed by the characterization, followed by special effects, followed by anything we haven't mentioned before. I have a feeling this film is ripe for picking on, even though it spurred 2 sequels and an entire television series that people just love this thing. And they watched it over and over and over again on cable. For some reason, I was one of those people, and I'm not quite sure why after reviewing the film. Okay, this is what we'll do. We're going to go through those 3 or 4 rounds, and I need people to check in. So this is what we'll do. You can check in using your call sign, your name, and did you see the Beastmaster, the film? If you did not, that is okay. We can discuss some aspects of it, including the fact, would you be willing to watch this film without being paid? Both of those, that is a good question to ask if you've not seen the film. So, I will now take check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see the Beastmaster from 1982? I will begin check-ins now.
Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, Thomas, yes, because Ted Turner got the rights to it very, very cheap, and it was on TBS at least 3 times a week.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I've seen about half of it. Aaron thought this movie was really famous.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J. Weatherford. I did see the film.
Kilo 5, Delta Charlie Golf. My name is John. I actually saw the movie in the early 80s at the theater.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see the movie for the first time in many years.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill, W5BLT, Garland. Saw an hour and 20 minutes of it.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto. Yes, I saw this movie. I think for the first time, because I don't remember any of it, if I saw it when it came out first.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington, and yes, I saw it. Just saw it.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sarah Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this film.
I think the usual suspects +1 is here, so we'll go down the list. I may need a fill here. I got K1JCM, Thomas, yes, he saw the film. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, he saw most of the film. KG5BZWJ near Rutherford, yep, he saw it. KF5, Delta Charlie Delta, John, did I get your call right?
Delta Charlie Golf. John, I saw the movie in the early 80s at the theater and have not seen it since.
Well, you can't get out of it that easily. I've got you down, KF5, Delta Charlie Golf, and you have seen the movie many, many years ago. Well, it hasn't gotten any better, so be prepared. Next up, NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth, she saw it. W5BLT, Bill Garland, yep, he saw it. WB50ZL, Brenda in DeSoto, yep, she saw it. KI5KWG, Cruz in Arlington. How the hell he couldn't have seen this movie all these years, but he just finished it, so he is now a part of this dubious quorum. And KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth, yep, he saw the film. Anyone else want dare to dive in? The movie tonight is The Beastmaster from 1982. Please come now if you'd like to join us. Okay, well, let's get this party started. We'll go in the order of check-ins, so we'll start with Thomas, K1JCM. Thomas, you get first dibs on the plot for this film. What did you think about it? What did you like? What did you hate? What could have been better? What was certainly worse? Or you might have actually loved this film, and you can tell us about that as well. From KE5ICX.
First, let me clarify. This is K, Kilo, India, 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, KI5, JCM. And I like this movie a lot better when it was Dr. Dolittle and Conan the Barbarian. I happen to enjoy both those novels, and I don't know who decided to smack this together, but to me it's kind of the original Pride and Prejudice and zombies, if you will. That's really all I have to say about it. I saw it many times in high school because they played that thing constantly on TBS, and we only had the lower cable package, so that was the only channel that really played movies late at night when I couldn't sleep. KI5JCM, back to net.
All right, thank you, Thomas. And I corrected the call. I just wrote it wrong. KI5JCM. I should have known that, but yep, I saw it a bazillion times. And this is the first time I watched it on stream with all the naughty parts they showed in the film. I didn't even know they existed. Next up, Tony, NT5TM over in Dallas. Tony, what did you think about the plot? I know you enjoy these type of films. You've told me that millions of times because they're so educational. What did you like most about the film, Tony?
Well, really, it provided a good excuse to eat popcorn. The plot had some heartwarming tropes in it, but being a nerd, the bioenergetics and the political economy of it were ridiculous. There's a reason nothing eats tigers. Let's say you have a laser gun and you can eat a tiger whatever you want. You're never at any risk. They can never claw you. Zap! Now you get tiger steak. This is a losing lifestyle. Tigers are top predators. They need a lot of prey in a huge range. They take a long time to come to maturity. They're very large. And so you'll very quickly run out of tigers, and then you'll starve. So it's very horrifying to see, like, the bat bird people who eat by dissolving one human for each meal. But animals like that are actually impossible. Humans are top predators. It takes a tremendous number of calories to raise a decent-sized human. It takes a long time. We reproduce slowly. There's a reason nothing ever evolved to eat us. I mean, bacteria and diseases, sure. And there are occasional predator attacks, but you can't make a lifestyle out of turning humans into jelly. It's just impossible. Likewise, human sacrifice only works if your empire is constantly expanding like the Aztecs were, and you can bring in lots and lots of foreign captives, or you have a really big city like the people of Carthage apparently did. It was long thought that their human sacrifice was just enemy Roman propaganda, but no, we have found, unfortunately, recent archaeological evidence that they did a lot of child sacrifice. Ew. So the enemies are very bad, even if they're impossible, because there's just people don't reproduce fast enough. But the happy trope part of the plot was the Beastmaster. He's, inexplicably not sunburned, but he does have to find his allies in his quest. And I did like that. It's very heartwarming. The ferrets are so cute. One person by themselves just turns into Tom Hanks talking to a basketball as if it were his friend. People need partners. We're only found in groups. You've got to find the other people who complement you, even if they might be a tiger that was painted black. So I actually did enjoy that trope of companionship and teamwork, even as I laughed at that one tiny little village with endless child sacrifice and the bat people sucking all the juice out of humans. So I will watch the rest of this because I was enjoying it. But possible, no. Serious, no. Heartwarming, me.
Well, thank you, Tony. And as always, I'm going to come to you first for fact-checking. And you know what? You should be an official fact-checker for anybody who watches movies for a living. You just call you up, and then you come up with this stuff faster than anyone could possibly look it up on the interwebs. So we appreciate you for that. Next up is Jay. KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about the plot for this week's movie, The Beastmaster from 1982?
All right, this is KG5BZW. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you gotta look at plot. Well, really, I guess they are plot devices, and say, yeah, okay, that's not a real thing, but okay, that's not going. I'm just going to try to enjoy the movie anyway. And I actually did enjoy the movie. Right. I mean, obviously the sacrifices were not sustainable. I should have realized I didn't even know they were bird people. Venus trap people to me. But they dissolve their prey rather quickly. So I don't know. There's not really. I have to admit, kind of interesting, but and I didn't expect them to be. I didn't expect them to befriend him. Well, not really befriend. That's wrong term. Because of the hawk and all of that. Sure did expect them to become later, but after that, but whatever. I thought Star was kind of almost a Disney princess in that, at least as kind of was, which I think it was a DreamWorks film that kind of satirized that bit. Was it Shrek? I don't know. Just talking to the animals and all that, even though it was more telepathic than literal as a Disney princess would. But I don't know, it was fun. Yeah, the companionship was. It's like, darn it, I got behind Tony. I don't know what else to add. It actually had threw me for a few loops, and I didn't hate it. Apparently actual leopards are very hard to train, so yeah, I understand why they went with the tiger and work with. But I have to say that still a painted tiger just looks goofy. I hope there are certain cats that or certain times that there's of course this lack of stripes or whatnot, albinism, but there's also melanism. But they didn't quite get everything. There's a little bit of stripe there, that you could see on occasion. So I was like, yeah, it would be kind of cool if they had actually found a tiger that. I don't know if there's ever been a tiger that's been that way, and I don't know. Furthermore, I wouldn't know if they would really want to train it, but anyway, I don't know. At first, I was hoping for that, but it's like, yeah, no, that's probably most likely a painted tiger. Other than that, let me reset. Hey, there's actually a lot you can talk about on this film, but I don't know. I feel like I just rambled on too long. So, besides, we got other sections to go through. So, I'll let the next person come forward. This is KG5BCW. Back to net.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And by the way, the tiger was supposed to be a panther. I never guessed that either, but I read it in the notes over here. The tiger was playing a panther because, well, a real panther is very difficult to deal with, and it likes to eat co-stars. So they went with a tiger that was more easily managed. That tiger also liked to eat small children, so they had to keep the children off the set. I wouldn't make that up. KF5DCG, John, your comments on the plot for The Beastmaster from 1982. Oh, we already have a dropout. KF5DCG, John? I think I got your call sign right. Are you still there? Come on back. We're asking you about what you thought of the plot.
This is John, KF5DCG. I saw this movie one time, and only one time, at the theater in '82, so it's been like 40 years since I've seen it. At the time, I will tell you, I was in high school. I was a reasonably serious martial artist at the time, and I saw this in the theater with half a dozen of my dojo buddies. And very early in the movie, pretty early in the movie, the main character, I guess, Dar, is just simply exercising with a big stick that's kind of been shaped in, similar to a sword. And he's just like swinging it in the air, bringing it up over his head, stepping forward, and striking down with it in the air over and over and over as a form of exercise. And we all went nuts because, honestly, that is a basic and very important rudimentary martial arts exercise, and we all practiced it every day. And for me, that was the only highlight of the movie. I thought it was a ridiculously plotted film. I don't know. I thought it was kind of ridiculous, and I thought it was a poor film past that point. KF5DCG, John.
Okie dokie, thank you, John. See, you do remember more of the film than you thought you might have, and yeah, I don't disagree with your comments. And interesting about the martial arts thing, I expected that, but I'm not a martial arts guy, but you are, and you called them out on it. Very good. Let's see. Next up is Virginia, NB5F, Virginia. What did you think of the plot for our film, The Beastmaster, from 1982?
KE5ICX and the net. This is NV5F. Well, I thought it was all right. I used to watch this movie occasionally, like on HBO in the summers when you could stay up all night and watch whatever you wanted because, it was the middle of the night. Or the afternoons. I think this one ran a lot on HBO. I remember seeing it. A few animals, being kind of friends with people. That was kind of a fun thing that I liked when I was younger. It had a pretty typical fantasy quest kind of plot and pretty straightforward, and some good fighting and bad guys. The bad guys were just bad. I mean, I know Tony goes into sort of the ecological facts of the thing, but they just needed bad guys that were evil, and would throw kids in fire. That makes you want to beat them. And the weird guys the wing arm, skin arm guys that dissolved people, that was pretty gross. And I think in movies like this you needed some of that special effects. I think that that they were just trying to be interesting to a wide audience, and back then the barbarian thing was big with Conan, and then the sort of sword stuff and adventures. You had the movies like Dragon Slayer and Excalibur, and you had the movies that people, the quests and things, those were really popular. And then anything with animals, who doesn't love animals? I mean, this movie's running a close second for me, with Short Circuit to be my favorite movie of all time. Just kidding. But anyway, and then of course you mentioned the naughty parts that you had forgotten about, and I had forgotten about those too because I was a kid and I just didn't even remember stuff like that. It didn't stick in my mind, and that was kind of a funny thing in the 80s. They would throw in just enough of that to get a rating. They would want a rating that would attract teenagers, and I can't remember if this was, I'm guessing it was rated R because PG-13 didn't exist back then, so I'm guessing it got an R rating, which is funny because it's got all these cute animals, and it's supposed to kind of appeal to a broader audience because of the animals. So yeah, I noticed that too. They'll throw in a little bit of that to get a certain rating, and I think if you have a certain body parts revealed on camera, you're going to just automatically get a certain rating. So, but it was short, and it was short-lived and didn't really interfere or distract from the story. I thought that it was compelling enough to keep watching, and some of these movies, the stories move so slow, and they're so complicated or convoluted or buried under other stuff that it can be even hard to tell what's going on. But this was real straightforward, and you wanted the good guys to win and the bad guys to lose, and you had the mysterious stranger and the kid who would be king show up, and you have a cool tiger that's painted black, and maybe He-Man stole Battle Cat from that. I don't know. Anyways. So I liked it okay. I was kind of upset by the ending where I guess that guy was his father, and the dude just kills him, and then Dar doesn't seem to be grieved, or there's just no emotion there. I just thought that was a little weird and kind of disappointing. I kind of thought it sucked that guy got killed. So anyway, but he gets the girl, and he runs off into the sunset with his animals and his girl, and the ferret dies, and that's really sad. You got a little sacrifice there, but then there's baby ferrets, and they are very cute. So, and you got some pretty nasty bad guys and some perilous things, and some really convenient hayride comes by and rescues them as they're falling to their possible death, and water that gets set on fire, because it must have gasoline in it, and the bird weird creatures come and save the day, which was kind of unexpected. I don't remember that part. So anyway, I could talk on. Anyway, thanks for running the net. K5ICX NV5F.
Oh, Virginia, you helped me so much, because when you gave all of those different details from the movie, and I remember watching this over and over again, and I could never figure out what the heck was going on. And you just described everything that was going on, which means I don't know what the heck was going on even after you explained it because it was all over the place. But I think your best comment was, and I got to say this up front because I'll lose it, and that is that this would have been a great thing for kids. Maybe, I don't know, preteen perhaps, grade school maybe not so much. It's got that cute animals. It's got that sword and sorcery stuff. It's got action. It's got gasoline. It's got all the cool stuff that any adolescent kid, male, maybe female too, would like. And yet it's rated R. And suddenly Turner finds it and says, hey, we can take out those 15 seconds of naughty parts, make it a G-rated movie, and it'll be a success. And it was, especially since they were running it over and over and over again, and the intended audience could actually see it on TV. Brilliant! All right, next up is W5BLT. Bill, your thoughts on the plot for The Beastmaster from 1985 from KE5ICX.
All right, thanks, Tom. W5BLT. Well, like I said, I got through 120 minutes of it. Still had about 39 minutes, maybe, or 38 minutes left. Yeah, I guess maybe I did watch this whole thing because back in the summer we had, when I was growing up, early 80s, the only way we could get HBO out in our country, where we lived out in the country, was to have a service called TVQ, which was an antenna that we received on our roof, and we got HBO. And they ran this movie at least twice, 3 times a day, I think. So I got to watch it in bits and pieces, so this brought back some memories. It's the plot we've all kind of seen before, really evil bad guys and a guy that has a destiny and goes and fulfills that destiny. And so there wasn't, I don't know, to me anything new, although I didn't realize, being blind, that these were ferrets that were in the movie, and now it explains a lot of things, because growing up at that time, there was these people around me, and they were all getting pet ferrets. So I think that might be something to that now. And anyway, so yeah, it was. I don't know. I did find out. Yeah, there's 2 versions of the movie. The one with the violent scenes and some extra scenes added, and then one I guess Turner showed. So that explained a lot too. That's really all I've got on it. W5BLT. Back to net control.
And thank you, Bill. And yes, I think that indeed there was the ferret thing going on at the time. I remember a neighbor had one, and it was all over the place, just like the 2 that we saw. Fine film you picked for us this week from KE5ICX.
This is WB5OZL. Well, on the whole, I found it entertaining. Lots of pretty people. Something for everyone. Mark Singer is certainly eye candy, and I'm not quite sure why he wore skimpy clothes and nobody else did much, or the girls that he saw swimming. So naturally, I think that's like a rule. If you see a topless woman, you instantly fall in love with her, which is what he did. It's not very sophisticated, but happens all the time in the movies. So anyway, not a terribly complicated plot. A lot of dumb stuff in it, but that's the kind of movie it was. You wonder about the village where he grew up. They obviously knew there were dangers, because they put their little huts on top of stilts. And then they had this little bitty fence around it with a gate open, so the bad guys just walked on in. And it didn't offer any protection at all, nor the stilt houses, which had to be accessed by a rope, which If you've ever taken care of a toddler, I can't imagine how you would do that. You could actually raise your family up there. But I don't know. It's yeah, and I was really surprised that the bad guys were able to absolutely destroy all the villagers. They had weapons. But anyway. I never had any scenes of the eagle or the tiger, panther eating. They must have been very hungry by the end of the film. But it would have been more interesting had it shown them hunting and eating their prey. I would imagine that ferrets would make a tasty morsel for either one of those. But that didn't happen. It was all filmed in California and Nevada, which is not the habitat for either tigers or panthers. So I don't know where you found this lone cat just walking around. But it did help move the story forward. Well, let's see, what else? I was very upset when the ferret died. I shouldn't have done that. It's why I hate Old Yeller so much. Don't kill off the animals. Just don't do it. And I kept thinking that he was going to come running up, shuddering, and they go, oh, he really didn't die after all. But yeah, he did. So that made me mad. There's a sequel to this. I have no idea what it's like or what it's about. But I might check it out sometime. I got nothing else to do. So, yeah, I often think about what would I want my superpower to be, and I've changed it again. I think I'd like to be able to talk to animals. That looks like a lot of fun, especially he didn't just talk to them. He was able to command them to do things, which, generally, even if you have it takes a long time to train a dog just to sit up and roll over, but he was able to get their obedience just instantly. That's pretty amazing. All right, I'm going to quit there. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda, and wonderful analysis and all of that stuff. Okay, next is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, you barely got in under the wire and saw the entire film, including the extra 20 minutes it didn't need. What did you think about the plot from KE5I6?
KI5KWG. When the author disavows the script, I already knew what I was going to think about the plot. Let me reset for a moment. Part 2. If I followed the genealogy correctly, isn't Curie, Dar's love interest, also Dar's cousin? That was a little concerning. Next comment I had is after 35 minutes of boredom before finally a scantily clad slave girl. So there was the 30 minutes we could have killed out of that movie. I did actually pay attention when we got to a part where the formula for entering a mystic or journey, which is a classic formula, through a dark wood and into a mist or across water or underwater. You see that in the Arthurian legends often. And so they used that, and I was like, oh, well, this is kind of clever that they're using that device, and then I was bored again. So, although I do think it was used appropriately. And my last comment on the plot development was the first time we see Curie in clothing. It was on her way to her sacrifice, and it was ripped off of her in 30 seconds. Just paying attention there and counted and noted that. I think that's what I've got on plot. I've got more on costumes and stuff this time. So more at stage 3 for me. KI5, KWG, back to net.
you, Cruz. You gave me a couple of interesting ideas with that. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about the plot for our fine film, The Beastmaster, from 1982, from KE5ICF?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, out of all the great movies we had from the 80s, this was not one of them. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot has already been said. One of the biggest notes I had was, yeah, too, how can you sustain a tiny society and keep killing the kids? After all, how do you have more kids if you kill all the kids? So, yeah, that was, yeah, that's the beginning, too. I didn't quite understand why they had to transfer the child from the mother to a cow and then sacrifice the cow to get the baby to kill it. It's like, well, why didn't you just take the baby out of the mother right there? But I'm guessing that's how he got his magic powers of being able to understand animals, because he lived in a cow for an hour, I guess. So yeah, as I already said, it's kind of I guess a prequel to Dr. Dolittle. So yeah, not a whole lot to really add, other than I was a little disappointed with sword fighting. I at least thought we were going to get some really epic battles out of this, and to be honest, that part was kind of boring. And yeah, this movie definitely went longer than it should have, for sure. I did like the animals. As a person that owns a chinchilla, I do like small animals, so, and I've had several friends that have owned ferrets. But yes, they're insanely almost impossible to train, and so yeah, to be able to instantly be able to train them would be quite the power indeed. But yeah, not a whole lot. I wish I could come up with something else, but it's been very well covered, so back to that. KB9, that's okay.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. All right, we are at the bottom of the list. If anybody's listening in who would like to check in and has not done so far, now is your opportunity to check in. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see The Beastmaster from 1982? I'll take check-ins. Please come now. All right, that's okay. Well, my comments, of course, I'll build off of everybody else's comments and say, hey, I thought of that too. I do have some unique stuff, not very interesting, but unique in the sense. I thought that this movie was better than it actually was years ago, but I haven't seen it since, well, gosh, I was back in Detroit watching it on, I don't know, HBO or something. It was on repeats over and over and over and over again. I guess I had cable for a while back in the mid-'80s, maybe the later '80s, but yeah, it was on all the time. And what else are you going to watch? This Beastmaster. And I did watch, if I remember, I don't remember Beastmaster. No, just Beastmaster. And quite honestly, completely had forgotten that it even existed, and I did not know there were two sequels. I knew of one sequel, which is unwatchable, and now a second sequel, which is probably even more unwatchable. I don't know. Okay. Now, I do have a question. Some of these are minor nitpicking, but the dissolving birdmen from Alcatraz, or wherever it is, they were able to dissolve all of these people instantly. It only took a few seconds. So why the heck do they have soup? What are they making soup for? What, they adding spices, give it a little zest? I don't know. They didn't need it, and it takes a long time to cook it apparently because it's sitting out there, and they got another guy waiting in the the bread basket, ready to throw him in there, I guess. I don't know. They're just kind of weird and strange and just weird neighbors. Let's see. The pacing super, super, super slow. It goes on and on and on and on, and I agree. As soon as they killed off Rip Torn, I'm thinking, okay, I can turn the TV off. No! There's another 15, 20 minutes to this film. Why? Why do they do that? I don't understand. It just took the pacing, which was already rather slow, and then turned it into something even slower. I think what they did was when they found the gasoline water and had that spectacular explosion, how they did that with water, I don't know, but they were really good at it. That was pretty cool, and I guess that's why they added on to the ending. It just didn't make any other sense. Let's see. Oh, another thing, too, are the people. Let me reset. So one of the confusing things for me was, I guess we start out, and this was mentioned, that it's really boring when you got one guy that talks to the animals and nobody else, right? Which is like your neighbor or the cat lady that lives next door. They don't talk to you, they talk to their animals. It's very boring for you unless you can watch them, I don't know, do something that makes the animals do tricks or something. I guess it'd be okay. But the thing is they keep adding people along the way, and I guess that could fit into the next category about all of these people. We start out with just Dar, and then we end up with Seth and Cal and Zed and Zed's wife and Sacco, and I don't know. There's a whole bunch of people. I felt like they were just like on a bus tour to Las Vegas. They kept picking up people, putting them on the bus, and you realize nobody cares. All these people, they're all boring, and can we get to Las Vegas quicker? I don't know. And let's see. Thomas mentioned something, and I thought I'd just throw this out as a side thing. He was talking about the cross between Dr. Dolittle and Conan the Barbarian. Well, I thought about that, and then I started thinking about talk singing. You know what talk singing is? It's where the person or the actor can't actually sing, so they talk sing. And that happened in Dr. Dolittle. If I could talk to the animals, that's exactly how Rex Harrison would do it. Yul Brynner doing, the sound of, not Sound of Music, what was that thing? Yeah, you know what it is. The King of Siam. That thing. Which also Rex Harrison was in, but he wasn't in the musical version. He was in he was in the talking version, which means that is Dr. Dolittle a talking or a singing version? Nobody knows. Then there's Richard Burton, who also would sing. I think it was Camelot. He would do talk singing, and then his counterpart, Richard Harris, did talk singing as well. So is that really a musical when you think about it? Just a side thing I was thinking about. So you think about that for a little bit. Okay, well, that was really not exciting. I don't think I got anything. Oh, yes, I do. Now, I could say this for special effects or not. No, I'm going to save it for special effects. I'll come back. Hopefully we won't be all bored and tired. So we'll go up to the top. The next thing we're going to talk about is characterization. If you got something to say, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to do every character unless you want to. So whatever you want to do. We'll start at the top with Thomas, KI5JCM. Thomas, what did you think of characterization for the Beastmaster from KE5ICX?
Sorry, I'm still dealing with the fact that for the last near 40 years, I never knew there was any naughtiness or naughty bits in this movie. I feel kind of robbed. Characteristics, I've already said. I think someone got high and read Dr. Dolittle and Conan the Barbarian and went, hey, there's an idea. I got nothing. KI5JCM, back to net.
Darn, I was waiting for fist. Whoops, let me do this again. I was waiting for fist shaking, and it didn't happen. Okay, that's fine. I'm sure special effects or not those special effects will get a good treatment from you. NT5TM, Tony, tell us about the subtler parts of all the characters and the acting in this from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. You're doing a great job, and we've had some great comments, too. I did want to add to W5BLT that, yes, the service we had when we first ever saw, like movies on TV was called TVQ as well. we were in a far northern suburb of Milwaukee. We had a cornfield behind our back property lines. We were right on the edge, and yeah, there was no cable. We had TVQ. I was just so impressed to hear that name again after all these years. I loved all the Dr. Dolittle comments, and obviously the best characters are the ferrets. Erin had a couple of ferrets at the time we met. She was about to move to Florida to finish college all those years ago, and one ferret died in a tragic accident, and she had found a new home for the other. But the ferrets were so awesome, because the other ferret hadn't had to go to its new home yet. I really don't think they would have had to train the ferrets for this movie. Ferrets naturally steal stuff. If you needed the ferret to steal the actor's belt, the actor would have just had to wear it around in front of the ferrets and maybe handle it a little bit and rub it against his face and then set it down and pretend to look away, and the ferrets would have grabbed it. They take wallets, they take cigarettes, they take keys, they take screwdrivers. If you like something, your ferrets are going to take it. They were by far the absolute most realistic characters in the entire movie. That's really the only character comment I had, was just Erin's ode to ferrets, that she loved her ferrets very much, and this was the movie that she saw. I don't even think she saw the whole movie, she just saw clips from it, but it was the only movie she knew of that featured ferrets in an important role. NP5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. And I don't have a ferret or ferrets. I have a puppy dog that's gigantic. It's at 11 months, and she gets into everything. She ripped up a QSL card that I had here, and I forgot I even had it, and she's amazing. So maybe she could qualify. I don't know. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on characterization?
Good evening. I don't know why I'm saying that. KG5BZW here. I'm hoping that I still sound good. It seems to have degraded a little bit in the past, 30 minutes or so. So let's see. There's not really. I mean, you got the animals is probably the best part. The Reptorn seems like he always did this kind of stuff. But I mean, I know he was a very prolific. He seems like he was a prolific actor. I don't quite know. I know there was some stuff he was actually. Seems like I was looking up stuff from Temple, Texas, and he got a few awards, but this wasn't, that kind of thing. Yeah, characters. Yeah, it's really the animals here. The slave girl. I mean, she did her part. There wasn't much. I like Seth. I don't know that much. It is to be said, he was just kind of, a loyal helper. And just fit the tropes real well. I mean, there are several helpers. Of course, the guy that was the kid that Star saved, but not really. That was I don't know. There's probably a name for that trope. I mean, you could probably just go to tvtropes.com and just pretty easily pick which tropes characters fit. There wasn't really character trope or anything, but it wasn't that kind of movie anyway. I still don't know what who's the character, the Horde. I mean, how to pronounce the Horde's name. But they were just generic enough bad guys that probably loosely, very, very, very loosely based on the Genghis Khan Horde and all of that jazz. But, yeah, there's so much that just, it's like, I'm not really saying anything. It seems like everything I've said is pretty obvious. I think more interesting stuff is the third, what we talked about in the third segment. So, I'll just leave it at that. Here's your BCW.
Okie dokie. I'm going to move along here. John, KFI-BCG. John, what'd you think of the characterization for the Beastmaster?
Apologize for not remembering the gentleman's call, but I think I agree with the man who said spirits in this film were the characters that were true to form. The rest of the characters were, to me, rather cardboard cutouts. And so, I think I'll leave it at that. KF5BCG.
All right, thank you, John. Well, that was quick. Virginia, NV5F. What'd you think of characterization, or the acting for that matter?
Well, I thought the acting was all right. Mark Singer's a pretty decent actor, and the characters were pretty standard characters, but I felt like I paid attention in the early part of the film, after all the weirdness at the beginning, to get you there, which is the whole point was, oh, this guy is, he's been raised and by a kind of, a little out there. I think there's hints early in the movie that he's got a rapport with animals. They kind of play that up, and then of course it's a very standard, hero's journey where something happens to all the people and he's left there to go and make it right. And I think that he played he did a good job as that character, and I think that still is a pretty standard thing, but the sort of the role of, but then putting it in kind of that quest, barbarian, I guess this was some kind of a fantasy, like a medieval thing, but it was kind of fuzzy as to what the context was for the characters to be in, but the bad guys were bad, the good guys were good, the love interest was pretty typical. It usually starts out as a, oh, I can't stand you, or you're annoying, and then, and then by the end, he's saving her, and they're in love, and, the guy Seth who comes along, he's pretty standard. He's, the guy that always shows up about halfway through the second act and helps the hero, and, and that actor, I've seen him in a lot of movies since, and I think this might be the earliest role I've ever seen him in, and, he does good in that part. He looks the part, and he's, and it's, a lot of times that character is like some person of color who's from who knows where, and they seem to, like,
just be there in the nick of time, and so pretty standard things. And all the acting was generally pretty good, and like I said, it's kind of a retread sort of ideas in the movie, but it was done well enough to where you could keep watching. It wasn't just unwatchable. And you said you talked about the plot moving slow. Things just moved slower back then. I think we've gotten used to things just moving at such a pace and being so multi-layered that you can't understand them, even though they're moving quickly. They get long and boring. I don't know how many times I've been sitting through like a modern movie, and about an hour and a half into it, I start looking at the time thinking, how much longer is this going to last, because it's just so intense and so fast and impossible to follow. So I think things just moved slower back then. But you have totally messed me up with the talk singing thing, because now I'm rerunning old musicals in my mind, and I'm rerunning everything from My Fair Lady to Mary Poppins, and I'm like, holy crap, you're totally right. They did that all the time for actors who weren't singers, especially men. They would talk sing. That's really freaking me out. Anyway, I thought it was all right. Everybody was attractive and likable, and you cared enough about them to get to the end of the movie and see what they were going to do, how they were going to make it. And the ferrets were very good characters. They were very cute and lovable, and I think that kind of the sidekick people that keep the other end of the movie alive, I think that was definitely their role. They kept people who were not into scantily clad, things or violence or stuff being gross or creepy. They kind of kept that end of the movie alive. So anyway, I'll stop there. KE5ICX NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Well, think this way. There's something for the kids. There's little animals, and there's action for the adolescents, and then there's the weird stuff that goes on for your creepy uncle you have, and it's something for the entire family to watch. So maybe that's why it was successful later on. I don't know. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your thoughts on characterization and or acting from KE5ICX.
W5BLT. Well, I think everybody's already pretty much covered it, but I will say this. I now, after hearing what the tiger had to go through, I think the tiger has to be my favorite character now. Not sure how you paint a tiger, but no, in all seriousness, though, the characters are okay. I think it was a hard movie for me to get into, maybe because just the dialogue, or it was good to go through memory lane and stuff with it, but I don't know. It's hard to. It was hard for me to get into the characters, and maybe because I felt like I'd kind of seen similar plots and things before, and I remember at that time too with Conan the Barbarian and things. So I think I remember kind of liking this as a kid, but then now, obviously, going back, it was different. I will say one other thing, since everybody brought up the scantily clad stuff. My mom was my first descriptive video person. For those of you who don't know what descriptive video is, it describes the movie for someone who can't see. And the interesting thing, I went back and watched movies with a professional that does the descriptive video, and I realized my mom left out a lot of stuff. So I asked her about that later, and she said, well, those were things that you didn't need to know, and didn't add anything to the movie. W5BLT, back to deck control.
imagine, Bill, how she could have saved you with descriptions of plot, too. She could have just taken and turned the sound down and said, okay, you don't need to listen to this. This is the worst part of the movie. I'm going to give you a better storyline. Then she could have done everything and made it, and would have made things work better, I think. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, which is always a bad idea for me. Pardon me while I, cough. Next is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what'd you think of the acting and or characterization on our fine film this evening? WB50ZL. Brenda, are you there, or did you fall asleep?
Unfortunately, I did doze off a bit. This is WB50ZL. Are we talking about characters? Well, there wasn't any real. It is what it is. It's a popcorn movie. I thought, what can you do? You got a pretty girl, and she's the, scantily clad, and she didn't have to really do anything. And he was pretty good with his fighting and such. Back to the soup people, that reminded me, I saw the head floating in the soup of if those of us old enough to remember, the little Abner cartoon strip where these characters were making moonshine in a big vat and had things floating in it. I just pictured that. And that was the origin of the term skunk works. That's another long story. Don't get me started. So, everybody, I don't know. The animals were great. Loved the animals, especially the ferrets. They were just so cute. Their acting was good. There's just not much to say here about the characters, so I will quit there. WB50ZL.
Cute ferrets. Who doesn't like a good ferret? Okay, next is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what do you think of characterization and or acting?
KI5KWG, not much to add. I pretty much agree with what everybody else has been saying, but I believe that the Bird and John Amos should have honorable mention. I thought they did well. And I've got 3 points for round 3 if we get to it. KI5KWG, back to net.
All right, very good. Well, I think we'll be able to scoot by. So with round 3. KB9SOK, Sean, your thoughts on characterization?
Yeah, they're pretty plain characters. KB9SOK. Pretty plain characters. Nothing particularly special. I think the actors did okay with what they had to work with. This was just an okay movie. I do agree with your comment that you made earlier, Tom, about it. I also, too, thought, I remember this movie from years ago thinking it was better than what it actually was. I was a little disappointed watching it this time around. But, of course, I haven't seen it since the 80s, so I guess, once again, fuzzy memory. But, and I don't remember the sequels at all. The one character that was a little strange was actually, I thought, was the slave girl. She goes on and, she acts, I can't protect myself, yada, yada, yada. But then in the end, when she goes to rescue the king, she seems to, you find out she's some kind of secret warrior or that was secretly trained, and yet the whole time she acted like she didn't have any skill. And then that skill seemed to disappear at the end of the movie. So that part was just like, it was just kind of thrown in. I think they could have maybe done more with that, but,
too long anyway. We want to add more to it. So, anyway, now what else to say about this? Back to net, KB9S, okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Okay, my comments are going to be short and sweet. Yeah, I didn't think much of the acting in here. I do have to say, I was racking my brain trying to remember where I knew John Amos from, who played Seth. And I had to actually look him up, but I found it. And I was, back in the 2000s, pretty solid fan of The West Wing. And John Amos played a recurring character, not a regular character, but a recurring character on there. He played an admiral who advised the president, and he did quite a good job in that role. And that's where I remember him from. And as I think Virginia mentioned, he was a very young actor at this point when he did this role. So, but he's got many years under his belt. Probably one of the better actors that were, or maybe even the best actor in all of this. Everyone overall, I guess they did okay. The script doesn't give you a lot of inspirational moments, I don't think, so there's no way to do it. Rip Torn, who's supposed to play this wonderful over-the-top character, he kind of played a over-the-top dumb character. I mean, golly, he goes and he creates his own colony. What do these people do all day? I mean, really, nobody has any discernible form of income. They live in this desert place. There's nothing there. And somehow or another, they support these whole colonies. What do? Go and trade with Bartertown down the road with Thunderdome or something? I don't know, because they don't seem to have any sort of way of actually, maintaining these societies, except they're very, very small, which I'll mention in the next thing. So I don't know, it didn't make any sense to me. I think that's all I'm going to say on that one. All right, we're going to go to the exciting third round. Starting at the top, third round, can be anything you want to talk about. We do special effects, music, anything you want, plus anything maybe you've forgotten to mention in the first round. Whatever you want. It's a free-for-all. So, Thomas, KI5JCM, what do you got for us? Well, it is getting late. Well, let me try one more time. A lot of times people fall out. I even fell asleep in my own net, so it's possible. KI5JCM, Thomas, you got any final comments? Okay, that's okay. NT5TM, Tony, your final comments.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's funny. I guess we're talking so much because the movie really is too long. But it's funny how much a basically thoughtless movie gets us all thinking. But, we're nerds, and I'm proud of that. We like to overthink things and analyze them very carefully. Aaron was very happy to hear how people were moved by the death of the ferret and how much people liked the ferrets. I was very struck by how no one seemed to need sunscreen. And the other thing, I guess, a music comment, at least they did use kind of vaguely orchestral music and not like cheap synthesizers. That was a big problem with early 80s movies. Everything sounded like it was made on the cheapest possible keyboard. However, something about kind of the main hero theme in this movie made me think of the original theme to Battlestar Galactica, the 70s TV show. Just kind of struck me as being similar in some ways. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Yeah, well, it's not that many years out from that. It did have that kind of vibe and feel to it. Oh, well. Okay, next up, Jay, KG5BZW. Your final comments? It could be on anything. special effects or something you forgot from KE5ICX?
This is KG5BDW. Okay, that seems to sound okay. Everybody talking about the ferrets, but don't forget the dog that the character that died, and it was a good dog. Of course, one of the funny things about I immediately saw was the dog was supposedly dead. They had a scene. I mean, they had a good scene where the dog was lying still, perfectly still. But then there's the next scene. You got to see the dog here a little bit. It's like, oh, something happened. Interesting happened over there. And it's like, that took me out. That was funny because it was a good boy just being interested in what's going on, not really acting dog. I feel like I have to do proper research into this, and I haven't really gotten yet, because I just discovered something that apparently, there's an urban legend, but there's some grain of truth. It seems that to die, the tigers, they had to, put them under, and there's always a risk when you put any animal under, or anybody under, really. There's just a risk, and apparently one time one of the tigers may have gotten just a little bit too much or something. Who knows what happened? Poor actual tiger died. Granted, that's through the reports. The urban legend is that it was the inks that killed the tiger, but it seems that the more likely story is that it was put under and it didn't quite survive that. So that was sad to learn. But oh well, I love whichever. I mean, the way that I guess I'm kind of a cat lover, and the tiger very much acted like a kind of domestic cat either. They can be not really vicious, but stubborn in some circumstances. And I'm glad you're just a little 10, 15-pound thing. What else? I wanted to say a few other things. There's things. I have to admit, the bird weird soup people were interesting, and a comment that somebody maybe think, well, maybe they are making moonshine. People moonshine, you just save a little bit for later, make some sort of, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be alcohol-based, maybe they pepper with some psychotropic mushrooms or something, who knows. I don't know. The horses, I don't know. It seems like these days it would be really hard to gather that many horses to actually do a kind of scene like that. I thought that the scene where they, go into the moat, which is supposedly tar filled, but it looks like water. And tar is a lot more viscous, so it's like how does it explode? Well, how did those houses with on stilts explode? They were just explosion crazy. I don't know. That took me a little bit out of it, because that was just it's not just a poof. It was like a boom. On the houses and the moat, it was just really over the top. I mean, I guess for entertainment value, yay. I don't know. It was just another thing taking me out. It was one of the civilization, the little group that adopted Dar was a farming group, so maybe that was a trade center or something that that the fortress was made to be or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking there's got to be some history in certain places. Maybe, granted, in those places, I'm thinking kind of Middle Eastern places, it may have been more tropical at that time. I always have to wonder how, like places like Baghdad and whatnot, they are. Baghdad is an old city, and it had some, it had, didn't it have one of the seven wonders of the world, and like very, in terms of gardens and whatnot, but, it's Iraq. Modern day Iraq is not exactly, well, I don't know. I'm not going to do it. I only know what I've seen through documentaries and news and crap. So, I have to wonder about some of that stuff, but I just don't know. Other than that, I guess I'm done. Okay, you buy a BCW patch now.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Let's see. John was on Echolink. I don't see him there anymore, but I will ask him in case he's over here. KF5DCG. John, are you still out there from KE5ICF? NV5 Virginia, your final comments. Anything you want, or the category is special effects, and music, but anything you want to say. Final comments from KE5ICX.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I'm with Tony on the music. It did have that Battlestar Galactica feel, and I thought the music was pretty good. A lot of the lower budget films in the early to mid 80s did have a lot of really primitive sounding synthesizer stuff, which we now sort of, considered retro, whenever you hear that retro B-movie 80s synthesizer sound. But yeah, I thought there was a good attempt made here at a good soundtrack. I thought some of the cinematography in this was actually pretty decent. The visual effects side of that was kind of laughable. I guess whoever was doing that didn't know what to do with their camera lenses, and so I remember in the messenger feed last night there were some remarks about tiny miniature cities and tiny pyramids, and good camera work could have made that not so laughable. But the sets were, I think they were meant to have this mysterious Middle Eastern quality and look old or whatever, but some of the brickwork and stuff was so perfectly done by the art department that it was distracting how perfectly straight some of the lines were, and how it looked like you were watching like a background from a video game or something at some point, and I thought the least credited characters in this movie were the killer Jawas that were in the weird sort of tunnel thing with the big spiky hands coming out. I thought they were kind of interesting anyway. So y'all have given me a lot to go on. There's a lot of really, really good remarks this evening and things that I've thought were very, very humorous. And yeah, the soup. Maybe they were making moonshine. Maybe they were just maybe they were literally like distilling people, you know, because even though they're weird skin wing bird things, you know, they need to cut loose and load up every now and then. So, you know, maybe that is what they were doing. Anyway, lots I could talk about, but those were some of the main things. Also, the scenery did seem. I don't know if it was all made in the same part of California, because you had everything from parts that looked like the Shire all the way to stuff that looked like, you know, Monument Valley or something. So, you know, they did have a wide range of scenery in this movie, which some of it was pretty nice looking. Anyway, that'll be it for me. Good night, everyone. I hope everyone sleeps good after thinking about this movie for an hour and a half in V5F.
Right, thank you, Virginia. Thanks for your comments this evening. I'm going to say this before everybody disappears, too, is that, you know, you're talking about maybe they're making moonshine instead of soup, and, you know, you could do that, and you know, you sample it, and you say, you know, this moonshine's got a great body to it, and they would be right. Bill's on the board, music and that, but it can be anything you want from KE5I6. All right, we may have lost Bill. Everybody's dropping like flies. It is midnight. WB5OZL. Brenda, your final comments.
Oh, WB5OZL. I liked the music. I thought it went well with the movie. For what it's worth, it, you know, it wasn't special, but it was just, it was appropriate. It was okay. Yeah, the Leica sunscreen was a real problem, and sunglasses and hats. I never have understood that, how primitive people, ancient people ever got by without covering their eyes. And, you know, that thing with the steps going up to their sacrificial thing, I guess that looked like an Aztec pyramid, or maybe one of those other Central American ancient people, but that's the steep steps. I've often thought if I go visit these, I'll never climb it. I don't know how these people scampered up and down those steps so much, or how they managed to make a set like that, and so out of place in the California desert. All right, I'm done. Back to Nat. V5OZL.
W5FC.
Thank you, Brenda, for your final comments. We are now on regular repeater time, so remember to drop carrier for our final few minutes here to prevent the repeater from timing out. KI5KWG, Cruise, what are your final comments? Special effects, music, or whatever you want.
KI5KWG, I'll be brief and quick, starting with the public service announcement. Falcon 9 launch for other nerds like me in about 1 minute, if you want to watch it live. My 3 comments on this was, the first was Aztec warriors as French, wearing French knight apparel straight out of Monty Python's Holy Grail. I kept waiting for one of the knights to say your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. What a strange choice for their wardrobe. Already mentioned the music was the Battlestar Galactica theme. I mean, note for 12 notes, I think. That was their theme song, and I don't know how they got away with it. Third comment was I had just watched both Kill Bills and found the martial arts done, choreography was exciting. At the same time, it was funny, and it worked. Just an amazing thing Quentin Tarantino pulled off. This was none of those. It wasn't exciting, it wasn't funny, and it didn't work. And that was, for a martial arts film, that was a bit disappointing. I did enjoy the peasants and all their 1980s disco hair, though. That's what I had for you. Back to Nat from KI5 KWG.
Thank you, Cruz. Yeah, thank you for telling me. I'm watching it. Just took off here, so I'll watch it to orbit. Yeah, the disco hair. Big hair, yes. Okay, KB9SOK. Sean, your final comments from KE5ICX.
Yeah, it's KB9SOK. Yeah, almost echo exactly what Chris just said. Yeah, the music was completely stolen. I thought that, and I chuckled when I watched the movie. But yeah, I guess Lisa used real music, not the techno music. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, I was disappointed with the sword fighting as well, as far as the technical part. And my guess is costumes just stuff they found cheaply. But anyway, yeah, looking forward to the next one. Back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Well, let's see. My comments will be brief. Virginia stole my thunder, but that's okay. I don't mind. The little tiny villages, everything looked tiny. That drove me nuts when it comes to special effects. There's no doubt about it. That's what we were seeing when this was happening. And then when they did real live shots, the little tiny gate that's supposed to keep everybody out. In fact, the gates are open all the time. And then the little tiny pyramid. It didn't go very high at all. So yeah, some sort of forced perspective, a better way of filming it. It wouldn't have looked so so tiny. I mean, we've seen sets, and you look at the original Star Wars, and even some of the early ones too. They used practical sets on the early episodes 1 and 2. I think they did that, like the pod race and that. They still used practical miniatures in order to do that. And in this one, it was obvious. Depth of field and everything else just made it look terrible. So it was obvious that they were tiny sets. Okay, that's all I had for this evening on that. Next week's movie, I was trying to figure this out. I had originally planned for the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, but I put in the hot link for the wiki and not the actual movie location. I don't know if it's still there or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff that baby away for next week to see if I can find it, and instead we'll put something that may be halfway decent, Super 8 from 2011. I will correct the list in the guides, and I will send out that information hopefully tomorrow sometime in the morning. So I want to thank everybody for what they contributed this evening. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I was surprised that we had so much to say about this film, but that seems to be the case most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So we'll see you here next week. If anybody's listening and want to be included in the emails that I send out, just send it an email to me, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray @yahoo.com, if you would like to be put on the list, and then you can participate if you've just been listening. That's it from me. We'll see you all later. I'm going to watch Flight into the Future, and I'm going to watch this Flight into the Future on SpaceX. So time for some lost in space, guys. See you later. KE5ICX.
Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
KI5 KWG. Thanks, Tom, for running this net, and thanks to everybody. It was a lot of fun listening to all the comments tonight.